on this section, just so that you guys are aware of it, what we're going to do is we're going to look at more of the graphs itself, but more of the parabola shape. There's some things that you guys can pull off of the equations that would make your parabolas even better than what they already are, that you're already drawing. Okay? You guys look like, just by glancing over at what you've already drawn, they're not bad, but we can make them better. And part of that is what we're going to do today. Okay? So, the first thing that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about what it means to have an axis of symmetry. Now, maybe last year in your geometry classes, you guys talked about symmetry. Did you? Okay, so if you guys talked about symmetry, what does it mean? Anybody know what symmetry means, Andre?
Two shapes or objects are the same.
Okay, where they're the same. Basically what symmetry is, you guys, is where I could fold it over and it would be the same on both sides. Like for instance, if I took yourself and cut you right down the middle from top to bottom and tried to fold you over, you would match. Unless you're me and I've got one leg longer than the other. Okay? Your desks, for instance, if I cut them this way down the middle and folded them over, would they be the same on both sides? Yes. That's what symmetry is. Parabolas are symmetrical, meaning that once we know where the middle is, they're the same on both sides. Okay? So the axis of symmetry is going to be where, oh my god, I can't write that word. Where the parabola gets cut in half. Now, every parabola that you guys are going to deal with, and if you haven't noticed this yet, all your parabolas have opened either up or they've opened down. Okay? So every time I'm looking at an axis of symmetry, it's going to be a vertical line going right down the middle of it. That's where the axis of symmetry is. When you write an axis of symmetry for all the ones in this stuff today, it's going to be x equals whatever was in the h position. So once you know that vertex that we've talked about the last couple days, the axis of symmetry is going to run right through it, right through the vertex, and go right through the whole parabola. And the line for that is going to be at x equals whatever h is. So on that last one that we had from the previous assignment where you guys told me that h was 3, then I would have put a line going right down the thing at 3. And it's the same on both sides. Okay? So, here's what they want you to do for the first part. It's going to say f of x equals negative 2 x plus 3, the quantity squared, plus 4. And just to revisit a little bit that we talked about yesterday, this is the number that's in the A position, this is the number that's in the H, and this is the number that's in the K position. What they want you to do is they want you to identify two things for me. They want you to identify the vertex, and they want you to identify the axis of symmetry. And then use those two things to help you graph. So here's how you do that. What number is in the H position?
3.
Negative 3. Okay, be careful. Remember the equation said ax minus h, the quantity squared, plus k. So when you've got a plus on the inside, when you pull it out, it's a minus. And if it's a minus on the inside, when you pull it out, it becomes positive. Basically stating this, you guys. Whatever's coming out of this area right there, when it says x plus 3, change the sign when you tell me that it's in the vertex. What's the opposite of 3? Negative 3. Okay? So the h is at negative 3, which means my axis of symmetry is at negative 3. That also means for my vertex, negative 3 is the x coordinate. So it does two things there. And then what number is in the k position?
4.
Good. 4. Is everybody okay with that so far? Again, all we're doing is just pulling the numbers out from there. It's going to have it in that form for us. So for that particular purpose, we just pull those pieces out. Now, here's how I use them to help me graph. So first of all, I make my grid. At -3, I'm going to make a vertical line. So 1, 2, 3. When I make my vertical line, I'm going to make it dashed. Just so you guys know this. I'm just going to make a dashed line running straight up and down. The reason why I'm making it dashed is because officially it's not there. So that's why I put it as a dashed line, just to signify, hey, this is my axis of symmetry. It's not really shown on the picture of a parabola. However, it is there. So that's why it's a dashed line. It's kind of an invisible thing. Now, how do I plot the point -3, 4?
Go to that's right.
Go to the left 3, and then up 1, 2, 3, 4. Make dot. Okay? That's your vertex. Now, based on what we have in our A position, what way do you think this opens? Do you think it opens up, or do you think it opens down? Why? We got a reflection, right? So it should open down. So here's what I want you to do. Here's how you're going to be more accurate. Parker, would you pick a number close to -3? -4. Okay. So Parker's picking -4. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put -4 into my equation, and I'm going to see what I get. Okay? So if I do that, I've got -2 times -4 plus 3 squared plus 4. And now I'm going to just see what I get. Now, the number doesn't matter what one you pick. That's why I asked her to pick a number that was close to -3. You don't want to be too far away from it because you'll be graphing some pretty big numbers then, okay? But what I asked her to do is pick one close to -3, and the reason why, it's close to the axis of symmetry, okay? Now, first things first, if I use the order of operations, what's -4 plus 3? -1. What's -1 squared? 1. What's -2 times 1? And what's -2 plus 4? 2. So here's how I'm going to use that information that I just got in order to graph. Parker told me to put in -4. So that means that's the x coordinate. And we got out 2, which means that's the y coordinate. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, and up 1, 2, make dot. So all I did was I picked or had Parker, thank you, by the way, pick a number for me, and then I created an ordered pair. That's what I did. Now, where is that ordered pair in relation to the axis of symmetry? Is it to the left of it or to the right of it? To the left of it. Notice how the -4, 2 is one space away from that to the left. So that means because of symmetry, if something happens on the left side, it also has to happen on the right side. So realistically, even though I don't have to put another number in, if it's one space away here, then it should be one space away there. Now I have 3 dots without me having to plug in a third number or a second number. Now, just so that you guys are aware of it, in order to make a parabola, you need 3 things that are not in a straight line. You need 3 dots. How many dots did we have right now? 3. You can make any parabola as long as you have 3 non-collinear points on a grid. So what do I do now? Connect the dots. and try to make it appear to be where, as you do something to the left side of it, that you're also gonna do something to the right of it. Done. So here's the steps that you're gonna take. Identify the vertex and the axis of symmetry, then place them on the graph. Then I would choose one other number that's not on the axis of symmetry to begin with. Run it through the equation. If it's on the left of it, you put the other matching one, the mirrored image on the right of it. If it's on the right of it, you put the mirror image on the left and connect the dots. What do you guys think of that? You want to do another one?
Yes.
Okay. Sam, would you pick a number from 3 to 14? 7? Thanks, Sam. Y equals -4 parentheses x minus 2 squared plus 4. Okay? So, there's my equation. First thing that I'd like you to do, what's the h? 2. So that means that it's 2 for the vertex, and it's also x equals 2 for the axis of symmetry. What number's in the k position? What? 4. And that's the end of the vertex. Does anybody have any questions about how we came up with those two numbers?
So what's the x equals to?
This is the axis of symmetry. Do you want me to label that?
No, I get you.
Okay, because what they're gonna ask you is they're gonna ask you, identify the axis of symmetry and the vertex. So for me putting both of those, I've identified them. Okay? Is everybody okay with that step? Step 2, put that equation and that ordered pair on your graph. So, make your graph. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, make dot, also make dash line going through the whole thing. Ew. Try to make yours straight, unlike my curved one. Is everybody comfortable with step 2? All right, so step 3, what I want you to do is just pick a number, but don't get too far away from the axis of symmetry. And again, the reason why is because if you get too far away from the axis of symmetry, you're going to have to go down quite a ways. Because remember, you're squaring numbers, so they get pretty big pretty fast. So pick a number close to 2. I've heard 3 first, then I heard 1 second. Doesn't matter. No, you can pick anything you want. Okay? I'm going to not even listen to you, and I'm going to pick 0. Just because I want to be different than you. Okay? So -4 times 0 minus 2 squared plus 4. When you simplify this, what's 0 minus 2? -2. What's -2 squared? 4. What's -4 times 4? -16 plus 4. -12. So the reason why I wanted to show you this one as compared to the one either picking 1 or 3, whichever one you guys picked, I'm 2 away from that axis of symmetry, right? The axis of symmetry is over here at 2. I'm at 0. I'm only 2 away, and look how far down I have to go already. What if you were to pick 3 or 4 away from them? You might have to go down like hundreds. Do you want to graph hundreds? No. You don't. Okay? So stick at least a couple, or at least within 2 away from the axis of symmetry when you do that. So it doesn't get too crazy on you. So negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Which means, notice where my ordered pair was at. My ordered pair is 2 spaces to the left of the dotted line. So that means the mirror image would have to be 2 spaces to the right of the dotted line. So at the ordered pair of right here, at 4 and negative 12. Now what do I do with my 3 dots? Connect the dots, la 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 la.
Where's that from?
It's from an old TV show called Pee-wee's Playhouse.
That's how I know. I love people.
Yes, that's what it's from.
My brother watches it all the time. He sings that at the table.
Yep.
Good show. He's kind of annoying, but it's
Yes,
fun.
very much so. Okay, anyway. So that's the first half of your assignment, what you're going to have to do today. What do you guys think?
Easy.
Everybody okay?
Yeah.
All right. The second half is the same thing, only they're going to give it to you in a different format. They're not going to give it to you in Vertex form like that. They're going to do something like this, where it's going to say f of x is going to be equal ax squared plus bx plus c. They're giving it to you in what they call quadratic form. Okay? So for this particular thing, what's happened is that everything has been multiplied out already. So in order to find the vertex and the axis of symmetry, there's a couple different ways about going about doing it. I'm only going to show you the easier way. Today anyway. I'll show you the harder way later. Okay? So first of all, in order to find the axis of symmetry, we use that formula. Negative b divided by 2a. So that will give us the axis of symmetry. You know what else it also gives us? It gives us the x coordinate, correct. Okay? Now, if you know the x coordinate, in order to find the y coordinate, you plug x in and see what you get. Okay? To find the y coordinate, plug x in to equation. And see what you get. Okay, that's how you find the y. Something else that's also going on with this thing, and just so that you guys know some of the characteristics, I want you to look at the letter A there for a second. And in the last 2 letter A's, they were both negative. Which way did they go? Where's the negative in the front go? Up or down? Down. If the A is greater than 0, it's going to open up. And if the A is less than 0, it's going to open down. That's really not new information. Because when you look at the A that we had in this problem and the A that we had on the vertex form, they're the same. So realistically, they don't change. Okay? So, the other thing that also happens that's really important to you is this one right here. That letter C, or the constant as they like to call it, is also the y-intercept. Now, here's the reason why that's important. If I've got the vertex over here, and it hits the y-axis over here, now you have 2 points on your graph, right? And how many do you need to make the graph? 3. But remember, with symmetry, if this is 1, 2, 3 spaces this way, then this should also be 1, 2, 3 spaces that way. So do you have to plug in another point? No, you don't. You just have to plug in the one x so that you can figure out what the y coordinate is. So here's how these are going to look. It has f of x equals 3x squared minus 6x plus 1. first and foremost, does it open up or down? Up. Why? It's not negative, right? Opens up. Okay, now, let's figure out the formula. What number is in the B position? Careful. Negative 6. Okay, because there's a negative sign in front of that 6. Make sure it goes with it.
How about it said you did a negative B?
Right? This is not, this negative that's right here is not part of this negative there.
Which is why it's in parentheses.
Right. Anytime you plug in a number like that, I'd always suggest putting it in parentheses so that you don't screw up a sign. Because if you screw up a sign, guess what?
Your answer.
You're wrong. So divided by 2 times, what's in the A position? 3. So the first thing that you need to do, let's clean it up. Is it going to be a positive or negative on the top? Positive, because you have 2 negatives. So it's positive 6 divided by, what's 2 times 3? 6. And 6 divided by 6 is? 1. Good job. You just found the axis of symmetry. You also found the x-coordinate of the vertex.
So you plug 1 in first.
Now to get the y-coordinate of the vertex, I plug 1 in for x and see what you get. So 3 times 1 squared minus 6 times 1 plus 1. Remember, order of operations. What's 1 squared? 1. And what's 1 times 3? 3. What's negative 6 times 1? Negative what? 6. You're multiplying. And then plus 1. What's 3 minus 6 plus 1? Negative what? 2. Because remember, 3 plus 1 is 4, and 4 minus 6 would be negative 2. Now, here's what you have. You have, at this point, hopefully drawing a straighter graph than that. Oh my God, that's ugly. But what you found, and I'll try to put it in different, I'll put it in brown. You found over 1, up 1, 2. You just found the vertex by giving me the x and then finding the y by plugging it in. You also found this axis of symmetry. It's a negative, yeah it is. I was looking at that going, why is that wrong? Stupid teacher. Okay, so we put the vertex on there. You might want to label it with a little v so you don't forget it. Now the other thing that's important, what number was in the C position? The C position was right here, number 1, which means at the number 1 we make a dot. How far is 1 away from the axis of symmetry? Hold on. How far away is it from there to there? 1. So that means it's 1 to the left. So you need to make another dot 1 to the... Good. How many dots does it take to make up a parabola? 3. What's going to happen today, you guys, is I'm going to give you half of them that look like the first ones and then half of them that look like this. That's all you're doing today. Do you want me to do another one like this? I heard some people say yeah, so too bad. So pick a number. Den, would you pick a number from 21 to 30 for me? 28? Thank you, Den. All right, so there's my equation. So x equals negative, what's in the B position? 1. If there's not a number in front of the x, it's understood to be a 1. Keep that in mind. If there was no x, then it would have been a 0. okay? Divided by 2 times, what's in the A position? 0.5. So on the top, what's negative 1 times, or negative times 1? A negative sign times a positive 1? Negative 1. And on the bottom, what's 2 times a half?
1.
1. What's negative 1 divided by 1? Negative 1. Is everybody okay with that?
Is X gonna end up being a version of 1?
No. Coincidence. Doesn't have to be a 1.
So when you put b in on the top, like it always goes in parentheses.
Yes.
Okay.
Just like I always put the a in parentheses too, to show multiplication. Then 0.5, negative 1 squared plus negative 1 minus 3. So I'm going to plug in negative 1 to all those pieces and see what happens. What's negative 1 squared? 1. 1 what? What's 1 times a half? 0.5, as I can't talk. Minus 1 minus 3. So what's 0.5 minus 1 minus 3? Negative 3.5. You can leave it as a decimal, that's just fine. Or if you put it as negative 3 1/2, awesome, doesn't matter. Now when you go to graphing that, it's a little straighter. First of all, I'm going to put my axis of symmetry down at negative 1. Make sure I get it in the right spot this time. Then in red, I'm going to put the vertex. So I'm back 1 to the left and down 1, 2, 3, and a little more. Just so that you know when you do negative 3.5, it's halfway between negative 3 and negative 4. So come as close to it as possible that you can. Now the last thing that I want you guys to tell me is what number was in the C position? Negative 3, which means it hits it right here at negative 3. Which is how many spaces away from the dotted line? 1 to the right. So if it's 1 to the right, then that means I need to make one to the left. Right? And then what do I do with the 3 dots? Connect them. Notice how this one was a little bit wider than the other ones? Did you guys notice that? If you think about what the A was, if I were to take the A out, or the A was 0.5 or 1/2, remember that vertically shrinks it. So what do you guys think? That is what you're going to be doing today is graphing, either the first ones or the second ones. So on page 61, you're going 3 to 30, multiples of 3.